All right. Let's get the Instagram stream going. Welcome, welcome, squirrels and barrels, boys and girls, innies and outies. We are live. Yes, we are live. This is going to definitely be a short stream, as I'm still working out the wibbly wobbly bits of my streaming setup. Although I would love to say that I have it perfected, everything in place, but when you've got kids running around throwing Legos all over the floor, you trip and fall and knock a few things over. Regardless, just testing everything out, making sure I've got audio recording well, everything streaming well. Alright, remember, you can always send me a message saying, this looks good, or wow, Andy, that looks like doo-doo. Fix it. If it looks or sounds like doo-doo, please let me know. I don't like doo-doo. Alright, so, if you know me, you know I've been working on a comic book called Choke Point. Issue 1, I'm rounding that final corner to get all the lettering done. So close. It will be done soon, I promise. Another little point of order. I do plan on starting a Kickstarter later this year. I've got a few ideas. Curious what you all think. Should it be a John Grisham goth noir with vampires? Should it be Mad Max meets Tank Girl with dinosaurs? Should it be a Tom Swift type celebrity adventurer that punches Nazis in the face? Let me know. I've got an idea of what I want to do. But sometimes I can't make the voices stop. And I just keep creating new stories. So, if you like any of those ideas, send me a message, let me know. I'll probably do a poll on Instagram later. But, as an illustrator, I have spent decades drawing analog with pencils, ink, watercolors. I've used everything. I hate oils, I hate acrylics. Love brush and ink and watercolor. That's what I gravitate towards. You can tell in my art. But for the longest time, I have actually switched over to digital illustration. It's quicker, cheaper in the long run, less paper, less ink, less lead. But during all that, I've needed to switch from Windows and Mac to Linux. Like, I first stumbled across Linux back in 06. And I have actively been trying to jump ship since then. And I couldn't. Well, there's no Photoshop. There's nothing on Linux that's quite like Photoshop. Nothing in the Adobe suite it functions properly on Linux. No Affinity suite, no Adobe suite. You've got Krita. You have stuff like Raw Therapy and Darktable. But I don't really need the photography side of things. I need illustration and graphic design. not so much graphic design anymore. It has been since 2018 since I've worked professionally in graphic design. And everything I do now is comics and tattoos. So everything is illustration. I can do a lot of stuff for my graphic design needs in either Inkscape or, dare I say, Canva. Yeah, I know everyone poo-poos on Canva, but it's perfectly serviceable. And if you can't deal with that, then I'm sorry. It's not GIMP. Not as bad as GIMP. So it gets the job done. I do draw on Android with a Galaxy tab. I also have this laptop. Both of them use Wacom EMR, which just functions so much better. I do still use pencils. Of course, just get what you need. You don't need fancy pencils. You can buy a pack of Bic pencils and it'll get the job done. Switched from dipping brush into vials of ink with these Pentel pocket brush pens. They're great. They're amazing. They're refillable. Makes things so much more efficient. And I guess trying to find the most efficient use of equipment has always been my goal. Make my travel equipment as efficient as possible. Like breaking down my main palette of colors into as nice and small a pack as possible. You know, I don't use that many brushes for painting. I don't go crazy and elaborate. A cheap Walmart set of brushes does the job. Instead of a whole pack of color pencils, these are color pencil cores in the palette that I use for my tattoo inks and my digital colors, and I just got to put them in a little lead holder like this. And I have a whole set of color pencils in just this. I think that's fun. Yes. Could it be Linux? Could I have switched to Linux? Like, I've always been a Mac man. Long time ago, I realized I don't live in the operating system. I just live in the app. And so, since I used Photoshop, and it's basically the same app on Windows as it is on Mac, it didn't matter if I continued to try to force old Apple hardware to work or struggle with Hackintoshing. That's a nightmare in itself. I'm glad I don't deal with that anymore. But I think now with Linux I can get the job done. I have basically everything I do for tattoo illustrations is either in Metabang, Fire Alpaca, or Krita. And all of those function on Linux and Android. That's the other thing. I don't know if I'm going to stay permanently on Linux or switch everything to Android. We'll see in the coming months. Krita gets everything done. So when I first started trying to draw digitally, none of the apps really had good default brushes, and you couldn't really import any of the fun brushes from Photoshop or Illustrator into anything else. So I had to just basically build everything on my own. I think I created a set of brushes that mimics what I like to do. But if you've been following digital illustration over the past years, it basically boils down to, do you prefer Apple's iPad implementation or Wacom's EMR? Because Intreg and MPP they just don't cut it. I wish they did. I was hoping, because the Surface Pro hardware was amazing, I wanted MPP to work, but it just doesn't. So I've definitely made the switch to Wacom EMR permanently. And of course, the styluses are so prevalent. You have companies like Stettler, Samsung, Lamy making good quality styluses, and they all function the same. Love the Stettler pencils, because just that form factor, decades upon decades of drawing with wood pencils, it fits right. And of course the length, I can do the way I like to hold my pencil or on the barrel. The Krita works really nice. I like how Krita's turned out, especially since you can completely change all the dialog boxes. Works great with touch. In Linux with Wayland, I don't know how nerdy you are, but if you're familiar with X11 versus Wayland, you know you can have 2-finger touch, can't do 3 or 4 or 5, and that hinders some ability of Krita, but it's fine. It's fine. I don't need all that. You can get all your shortcut buttons in the menu bars, in the toolbars. Another app I really love to use is Fire Alpaca. One, because it's called Fire Alpaca. It's so silly, so ridiculous. It is traditionally a Windows app, Mac app also. They have an app image for Linux that has, I'd say, 97% functionality as the Windows and Mac versions. The only thing stopping it, oh Lord, are we gonna have problems? We're gonna have, there we go. Let's create a new canvas. I can't pinch to zoom. I can't move the canvas. But if you have a keyboard shortcut controller, you can, hold the space bar to move it around, or get your shortcut to do your zooming. Granted, it's an extra step, but it functions. And of course, Metabang and Fire Alpaca don't have the best brush options. You can build so many cool brushes. Why did it go back to that one? I didn't want that one. Let's do this one. If you spend the time, you can figure out how to make it. Fire Alpaca works great, and if you learn Fire Alpaca, you'll learn Metabang. The big difference between Fire Alpaca and Metabang is Metabang has cloud storage you can pay for. You get 3 gigs free, you pay for the rest. Fire Alpaca doesn't have that. But it has, Fire Alpaca does have a workflow for animation, which not in my bag of tricks, but I probably will be doing some animation shortly. We'll see. Ooh, one thing I did get working on Linux, on Mac and Windows, there is a media simulation app called Rebel. I fell in love with Rebel back in 3.0 days. It's on version 8 now, but I did pay for the 7 Pro. And the watercolors are so amazing. This is so much better than anything Procreate does, anything Fresco does. And again, because it's running on Wine on Linux, you don't have any of the touch, so you have to do your keyboard shortcuts. Get that to work. But zoom out just a little bit. I don't know, I just feel like Rebel does a great job of watercolor simulation. Paper textures, how the algorithm of the pigment interacting with the paper texture. It's great. So I can get that to work on Linux. I've got Fire Alpaca working, Krita works amazing. I can do just about anything I need to in my workflow on this machine, except for running my Cricut cutter. Got a hold of the Cricut cutter long before I realized what I was going to be doing, like switching to Linux, but I don't know if we all foresaw Windows whipping the bed with telemetry and forced ads. Apple really pushing AI really hard in iOS and Mac OS. That doesn't make me happy. That's why I want to go to Linux. I don't have to worry about those issues. But for the life of me, I cannot get anything to communicate with the Cricut cutter. It's like the company behind Cricut hates Linux and goes out of its way to prevent it from working at all. Almost like the people behind Affinity Design and Affinity Photo really hated Linux, and anytime somebody figured out how to get Affinity to work on Wine on Linux, they would change the code, do an update, and break it. Unfortunately, I cannot use this machine to communicate with my Cricut. I have to bring in my tablet or my phone to do that for me. I'm again going for the most efficient workflow. I don't want to have 2 or 3 devices to do all my stuff. I have gotten video editing working on Linux. Not a videographer, I just need simple editing. Started using an app called UCut on Android. It's absolutely everything I need. I can get it running on Linux through Waydroid. I can't get Cricut to work on Linux, even with Waydroid. There's no Bluetooth pass-through. I can't get the app to talk to the cutter. If I'm running Kimu or VirtualBox, I have to use Windows or Mac, and I'm trying to stay away from those as much as possible. And even then, it's hit or miss if whether or not the USB or Bluetooth pass-through will actually work. But as much as I want to go with this, might not, and this might not be my final workflow. I seriously could switch to Android completely, except for one giant problem. The Android works with the Cricut, has the video editing. There is photo editing software and selection organization that work really well on Android. Krita is on Android, and it is 99% Krita for the desktop. It just lacks the Python plugins. Metabang has an Android version, and it's amazing. I love it. It doesn't allow for a specific style of brush that I've created. In FireOutPack, it's like a roller brush, a roller or a ribbon brush, I think they call it. And you can import those into Metabang for the desktop. But if you sync it with the cloud in Metabang and try to get your Android version of Metabang sync with those brushes do not make it over. That's fine. The 6 brushes I created that way are not crucial to my specific style of illustration. It would be nice to have them, but I don't need them. One thing I absolutely need is I am completely vertical in all my workflow. So I need to be able to do all my desktop publishing in-house. Printing regular documents, printing standard photos, printing posters, printing my comics, my ash cans, all of that I prefer to do in-house. Printer drivers on Android are doo-doo. Canon, Epson, Lexmark, all of them don't put any effort into Android drivers for their printers. That's really, really annoying, because I want to print 11x17s on my Canon printer, but I can't because the printer driver doesn't allow 11x17. It follows a couple European paper sizes and a couple Japanese paper sizes, but then it jumps up to 13x19. I have to print everything. If I want to do 11x17, I can't just put in an 11x17 sheet of paper. I have to put in 13x19 sheet and cut it down. As far as efficiency and workflow, that slows it down big time. So I could get Linux printer drivers on Android. That would be the bee's knees. I thought, yeah, as far as I know, I'm the only person who actually has wallpaper or their wallpaper on their computers. But I digress. So getting printer drivers on Linux or Android, big hurdle. Big hurdle. I would have to totally reformat what sizes I print at. And I could. I've thought about it. I've actually spent several hours figuring out the mechanics. Could I switch from US sizes or switch to a different form of sizes for all my product creation? Comics, I could switch to 6x9 size. That's fine. That's standard size format for illustrated books, graphic novels, Kindles, or Amazon's Kindle Direct Publishing works 6x9. Perfect. Fine. I can make that jump. And then if I go with the 6x9, I can use the 2x3 aspect ratio for 4x6, 6x9. What is the other one? 9x13 and a half, and then 12x18 for posters and prints. I could switch to that. I almost thought about moving from Windows to Chrome OS. I know Chrome OS is kind of... Oh no! One of my cameras stopped! Ah! Why? There we go. I didn't even realize that. Food like that. Whoopsie doodles. Okay, so I thought about switching to Chrome OS. Especially since there's one company, Fide, their Fide OS, that works really well. It's a custom version of Chrome OS, runs Android apps perfectly fine. You could have Linux containers, and that's great. I had it for a while, set up a Linux container to do all the printing, run Krita. Ran Metabang in the Android app, ran the UCut for video editing. But the Cricket, couldn't get the Cricket app to work on Fide OS. And it seems like the Cricket people don't like Chrome OS either. It used to work with Chrome OS, then at some point it stopped. I don't know why. I don't know why people are actively making things harder for creatives. But Krita on Android, it's great. Metabang on Android, fantastic. UCut, Cricket, Design Space, everything works great except for printing. Supposedly with Android 16, version 16, it's easier to make Linux containers on it. So that makes me wonder if Android 17 will allow for better Linux containers. So far, I've tried setting up Linux containers on this tablet, and And I think with Userland and Termux, it's still something prevents you from setting up and printing to printers. I don't know. I gotta dig into it deeper. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. I don't know. Maybe I should just stop trying to do the complicated thing and just switch my print sizes. Seems like the easiest compromise. Yeah, Krita on Android, it's amazing. All my brushes transfer over. This is weird. I don't get why this happened. I created the new canvas, but it doesn't show up right away. But if I hit a menu, get out of the menu, it pops up. I don't know why it does that. It's been doing that for a while. I keep it up to date, but after one of the updates, I don't remember which one, 529 maybe, I started doing that. You can see, like, I keep the toolbars and the docks and the contextual menus all the same. It always starts to white. I don't know why it defaults to white. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like switching to Android. I really want Linux to work. The computer nerd in me wants to switch everything to Linux so badly. I think Android is going to be more efficient. Upgrading this Tab S7 FE to the S9 Ultra would be great. We'll see what happens. But in the meantime, I'm gonna keep making comics. Finish up Choke Point. Everyone will get to know when Choke Point's done, because once I finish that, oh my goodness, that weight lifted off my shoulders will be so great. But yeah, Choke Point. Illustrated by me, written by Mark Bertolini. We've been having fun with it. We've got a couple publishers interested. Mark Torello seems to enjoy it. He likes it. I mean, it sounded like he liked it, but it was too hard to understand what he was saying while he was screaming, "Hey, what are you doing in my house?" But I'll knuckle down. I'll get Choke Point done. I'll get that done. I'll definitely get it done before I start everything for the Kickstarter. Going back, what do you guys think? I have a bunch of ideas for my Kickstarter. I want to know what you guys would really be interested in. Do you prefer John Grisham style goth noir vampires? Political intrigue? You want Tank Girl meets Mad Max with dinosaurs? Do you want a Tom Swift type celebrity adventurer punching Nazis in the face? Do you want kind of a deconstruction of magical girl tropes, much like Madoka is to Sailor Moon, or how Project A-ko was to the entire anime industry? I've got a couple ideas. What would you guys be interested in reading. Alright, so I did say this was going to be a short stream because I was mostly checking, making sure I have all my streaming equipment set up right, and that my equipment is easily put in place to get cracking. Yeah. Plus, I wanted to get off my chest the whole leaving Windows and Mac for Linux, and is Linux gonna work, or am I gonna just make everything Android? I don't know yet. Alright, well, I think we're gonna call it a day for this stream. I will be back streaming tomorrow. I want my streaming schedule to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because when the children are in school, I have so much more time for activities, and I can do some live streaming. But I think the technical side of my setup is rolling. So tomorrow we'll draw some pictures. We'll paint something. Maybe we can talk about who your first crush was. Mine was Rainbow Bright. Now, funny story, I actually got to marry Rainbow Bright. Lucky me. Okay, so let's close this up. I gotta get to actual work on the lettering for Choke Point. I need to get that done. Mark's been very patient with me. I need to do better. Okay, so have a good night, guys. Remember, I love you all. Rock and roll.